Hi, welcome back to Memory Protection. It's an Apple News podcast set 20 years ago. Today, we're looking back to August 2000. I'm Josh McGrath, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Matt.
Who have we got lined up this month?
Oh, well, let me just check the books here. It's, Phil Schiller.
Who's Phil Schiller?
Phil Schiller.
Phil Schiller's cooler younger brother.
No. It is Phil Schiller, but now that he's retired, he can relax.
Oh, yeah. That's when Phil gets down by the beach and wants a cocktail, he asks for a Phil Schiller.
Okay, well. What? Sorry, 1 second. You can't make it. Phil Schiller's in my house, and he has to leave. We actually waited too long.
We waited too long. Yeah, Stephen had way more patience for us than Phil Schiller did.
Thank you again to Stephen Hackett for his incredible patience for this.
You going to be able to cobble something out of that?
We're going to find out.
Okay.
The edit tells all.
So we don't have much follow-up this month, but we did want to thank Stephen again for joining us last month. We really had a good time.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really awesome.
And we'd like to welcome all the new listeners.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. And if you'd like to interact with us, you can tweet at us at MemProShow or send us an email at memoryprotectionshow@gmail.com. We're sure we're doing stuff wrong, so if you've got things to correct, we're all ears. I don't know if that's the right way to say that.
Come at us.
Yeah, come at me, bros.
Come at us, graybeards. And wait, what was the other one?
Math heads?
Graybeards and math heads. All right, well, that's it for follow-up, so let's move on to hot cocoa.
Hot cocoa.
First up, the cubes and the G4 Duel towers are starting to appear in stores.
Nice. This happens around August 10th. There's no actual official release date for these things. I think they just start showing up in places. So
they just materialize. They just apparate in the Sears.
Yep, that's exactly. They're only sold in Sears.
Next,
Photoshop 6 is announced with new web, print, and photo features. This was the first version of Photoshop that I ever actually owned. I think I used version 3 and up in high school.
Interesting. One of the headline features is the addition of vector editing functions to Photoshop, which before that point had been the sole purview of Illustrator and the like.
Right. Yeah, and I think this is where a lot of designers, I mean, I don't know about you, but I designed everything in Photoshop for many years because of its vector features.
Yep, same.
Let's pour one out for Photoshop 6 because they don't make them like this anymore.
Next, some exciting news from a galaxy far, far away. Lucasfilm and Apple team up to bring the Episode 2 trailer to Apple.com via You Know It. You love it. QuickTime 4. With plans to continue to show videos of a documentary variety as the film gets made, because it's not done yet.
It's never going to be done because it's a George Lucas movie. Right, fine. That was a sick burn on George Lucas.
Can I give you a better burn?
Yeah.
Maybe it should never have been finished.
That's good. Leave all of it in.
Okay. It's the new hot cocoa. Next.
So similar to an old Microsoft advertisement that displayed Mac Netscape on a Windows computer, there's a new advertisement floating around the web with an eMachine computer running Mac OS. eMachines was a computer manufacturer that made some cut rate PCs back in the the 90s, and they obviously ran Windows, but they were Office Depot was running an advertisement that showed them running Mac OS.
Get wrecked. We see your mistake from 20 years on, and we ridicule you for it.
Yeah, I think these are fun.
A time-honored tradition.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's it for Hot Cocoa.
What do we do now? How does the show work?
Well, we usually have Stephen Hackett on, and we have a guest, as we do every month.
Yeah, every month. You should go back and confirm that. All you new listeners, go on. Challenge me.
We shouldn't really ridicule our new listeners.
What? They think they're hot shit.
Whoa.
Downloading the podcast.
Yeah.
Going back through our entire backlog, increasing our download numbers just so they can find all our mistakes. How dare they?
Send us our mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Zeb does.
He did it once.
I know, I'm joking. So this month, just like this time last year, Apple goes to Siebold in San Francisco.
Let's remind our younger listeners what Siebold is, because it doesn't exist anymore.
So Siebold was a series of seminars and trade shows for the publishing industry. So magazine professionals, print professionals.
Do you use InDesign or do you use Quark Express? Because I don't know if InDesign existed yet. You went to this show.
Right. So Apple shows up every year.
Actually, I don't even know if Quark existed. God.
Quark definitely existed. Okay. Because remember they talked about
Stephen talked about Quark. Yeah.
Yeah, but we watched the keynote where the Quark guy came out and said, we're going to upgrade it. And we had a whole conversation about how they never did it.
Man, that was a whole year ago.
That was last month.
COVID time.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It's a whole year ago.
It's actually 20 years ago.
Oh, my God.
So Apple goes and they talk about all the great new stuff because Apple in 2000 was deeply entrenched in the print and publishing industry, having invented, air quotes, desktop publishing 20 years prior.
That's true. Did you know that Apple invented Xerox PARC?
Yeah, I did.
That's wild. Most people don't know
and
that.
The user interface.
Yeah. And the computer.
User interface. And the mouse.
Yeah.
And chips.
Uh-huh. And Alan Turing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Apple.
Yeah.
Alan Turing loved apples. So.
Apple starts with A.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidence? I don't think so.
So last year we watched the Siebold keynote. This year there is no Siebold keynote available for us to watch, and it is basically a repeat of
Macworld,
which happened last month. So you could just go back and listen to that episode again if you really want to hear what happens this month.
Yep. The only really big change is it's not even really a change, but they do announce a release date for the OS X beta.
Yes, and that date is September 13th, so that's next month.
Yeah, and
20 years ago.
And we missed one cool demo.
Yeah, it sounds like we missed a really cool demo for Dreamweaver for OS X. You remember Dreamweaver, Josh?
I'm young enough that Dreamweaver has always been ridiculed, and I don't know if that's always been the case.
I used Dreamweaver in college, but I don't know when things turned, but it was shortly after I graduated college that Dreamweaver was something to make fun of.
Like it is always during my professional life, at least it's been shorthand for, yeah, you're gonna make a website, Dreamweaver, right?
Yeah, right. It's you're either a professional web developer or you're some sort of amateur making websites in Dreamweaver.
Which is funny because I feel like maybe that's even still a little bit in the air, but like I feel like people don't say that so much about like Squarespace or Wix, which, is accomplishing the same goal, right? Of making web development more user friendly, which is a good goal to have. I'm not diminishing that.
Right.
But was it just that it did? I think it had a reputation for making bad code and maybe not doing such a great job.
I think like a lot of things, you get out of it what you put into it. So I think if you don't know much about web development and the tool set you're working with, you're going to end up with bad code. And if bad code is something you're concerned with, then Dreamweaver is not your tool. But if you don't have the knowledge to know that what you're creating is bad code and you're getting what you want out of it, is Dreamweaver a bad tool? I don't know.
Right. Well, but on the other hand, if you do know what you're doing, often tools like this can be frustrating because they're limiting in certain aspects.
Yeah. And I think for people who were learning web development in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, Dreamweaver I remember Dreamweaver being a really good tool to have. Like I remember I used Dreamweaver, like having a live preview of what you were coding, super cool. That's something people still want now.
Right.
That's something people plug into Sublime Text and, Nova or Visual Studio or Atom now to do what you want to do. To be able to see the code you're writing.
Do we know if this was the introduction of Dreamweaver, or was it just a demo of it on OS 10?
No, it was a demo on OS 10. Oh, okay. It was available on OS 9 as well. So, I mean, I think like a lot of, not like a lot of tools, but I think like a lot of Adobe software, Dreamweaver tries to be everything to everyone. And I think it kind of fails by accomplishing or not being great at any one of those things.
Is it still around?
Yes.
Still Dreamweaving.
I don't know I could install it, but I don't want it.
Yeah, it's in the Creative Cloud.
That's where it's going to stay. All right. So, Seabold, a bit of a repeat from last month. What was exciting about last month, though, was the G4 Cube. Cast your mind back to August 2000, August 10th, when you just went down to Sears and you picked up a brand new G4 Cube in that tiny little box that it came in. And you put it on your desk and you just dropped probably like $2,500 on a cube and a nice new cinema display. You're opening the box, you've plugged it all in, you've browsed the internet, and you've seen all of the 10 websites that exist on the internet in 1999 or 2000. And you're wondering what to do next. What do you do next, Josh?
Well, if it were me, you know what I would want to do?
What? What's that?
I want to make a movie.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Let's do it.
How would you make a movie?
Well, you have to write a 3-act script, and then get an agent, and then secure some interest, and maybe talk to some financiers. If you can't get in with the studios, you're going to go indie route. Get your hands on some equipment and a crew. Don't forget about the unions and the guilds. You don't want to go. You do not want to make enemies with SAG, and then you make the movie.
Josh, that sounds like a lot of work. I do not have the time or resources for that.
That's right. You're a busy parent with lots of dogs on the beach.
Yep.
Lots of dogs to walk on the beach.
Yep.
And but gosh darn it, you want to make some movies to show your parents all your dog walking. What do? You turn to iMovie.
That's right. iMovie 2. It's bundled. There's a disc in the box with your new cube.
Wouldn't it be cool if it was in the cube?
Yeah, you turn it on. It's just like meow.
In and
spits
out.
Itself out.
In and out.
In and out. So Josh and I went out and we secured some funding and we got some producers and we got a crew. We got everybody and we started making some films.
We got some high quality DV cam footage.
Yep.
And we imported this footage into iMovie to see what it could do, to see how it can handle it. And we wanted to make it kind of a scientific process. So we did sort of an A/B test because Matt and I have creative differences, and we needed to. There's a Matt cut and a Josh cut. We'll just put it like that.
Yeah. So I spent maybe all of 5 minutes So I pulled out my old DV cam. I still have my old DV cam from when I had my original Power Mac, which has FireWire, which hooks up to these iBooks that we've got. And I spent all of 5 minutes gathering some footage for Josh and I to hastily edit before this episode.
You know what? That's a feature, not a bug. That's all you need.
It's true.
With iMovie too.
We both created something.
I mean, I did spend a lot longer. I feel like I put a lot more care into this project, but that's fine.
No. I spent 5 minutes capturing the video. Oh. I spent more time editing the video. No. The video was hastily captured. And I used, to sort of make the experiment accurate, I imported my footage with iMovie and then sent Josh the clips. So we're both using the same clips to create videos from. Yeah. So I thought, Josh, you and I can watch each other's stupid videos.
Yeah. Much like when Steve Jobs took all the Apple execs and put them in one room and broke a pool cue over his leg and said, whoever doesn't have an iMovie within the next 24 hours, I'll feed you to the dogs.
Yeah, we've got an open position in our organization.
Someone's going to ascend to a fellowship.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean.
Matt and I are going to compete to the death via iMovie. All right. Why don't we start with Matt's video?
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay. On 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Well, obviously this is an audio format, so I'll do my best to describe what I just saw.
Also, as a note, we will put these up on YouTube and link them in the show notes so anybody can see the messes we've made.
Yes. So Matt's video starts with a Webdings crawl.
It says Duel of the Fates, if you're curious.
Yes. And then he zooms in on his weird Amazon Fire tablet where he has a emulator running. Official game of memory protection, Star Wars pod racing for the Dreamcast, I'm guessing?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And when the Star Wars logo appears on the title screen, Duel of the Fates begins to play very loudly, which is the correct volume to play Duel of the Fates at.
Just as a side note, as a commitment to the bit, I actually tried to do like a synth version of Duel of the Fates, but then I realized it was going to take me way too long to come up with anything that was satisfactory. So I just bought the song and ripped it.
I wish you'd asked me because I actually own a book of sheet music of John Williams music, and one of the songs is Duel of the Fates.
Oh,
and it's for the piano, but that didn't stop me from trying to play it on the trumpet as a child.
How did it go? Maybe I'll send you what I have.
There's a very lengthy segment where Matt just shows the video game playing, but he's overlaid it with the ripple effect.
Yeah, I really had to put iMovie 2 through its paces.
Importantly, and this is something you have to do with iMovies, it's actually part of the program, is there's clips of Matt's dog sort of interspersed throughout the video.
Yep.
And just like Steve showed us.
Yeah, I figured if we're going to do an iMovie, it's got to have some sort of animal in it.
Mm-hmm. I thought about if I had more time of doing like an awkward message to my parents.
This game made me what I am today. Thanks, Mom. It's not opening it. Maybe it's downloading it. Oh, here we go. Got it. Let me know when you're ready.
Here, you count us down.
1, 2, 3. Oh, this is better. Very good.
Thank you. It came to me in a flash.
I was not expecting that.
Good. I'm glad.
All right. So we'll give you some time. We'll give you a few seconds to check the show notes and go watch the videos.
Go ahead. We'll wait. Right. And now that you watch them, let's talk about what it was like to make them, what it was like to use iMovie too.
Yeah.
What did you think in general?
I thought in general, like the overall experience was pretty flawless, with one big exception that we can talk about later.
And I want to back that up. I also thought it was a pretty good experience. It felt like iMovie, which, to be fair, I've used it before in the past, and it wasn't that different. There were some changes in certain expectations I had, and I have some quibbles with it. But on the whole, like, it got the job done.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I spent all told editing for like maybe 45 minutes, an hour. Some of that was just refamiliarizing myself with the software. Some of that was waiting for things to render.
Yes, but I will say that I'm not sure if it's the computers we have or if this is just the experience that it would have been like at the time, but rendering things like effects, edits, even and of course exporting the video all took a long time to do. And I'm not sure whether to hold that against iMovie.
Yeah, I don't know. My computer, my iBook is a little better than yours, and I think it has a lot more RAM than yours. What did you? I have 640 megabytes of RAM.
Yeah, for listeners' benefit, we are both running Mac OS 9.2.
Yep.
On iBook G3s, right?
Correct.
I have like 190 or so megabytes of RAM, and the CPU is a PowerPC G3 at it's a 500 megahertz G3.
All right.
So a pretty good computer for the time period we're talking about, which is 2000.
Right. And mine is a little bit of a newer model. I have a G3 iBook, but I have the 800 megahertz version, and I have 640 megabytes of RAM. So I don't think I felt quite as much pain as you did in terms of the rendering for the effects. Because I while it was slow, it was not excruciating. Like, it was like I waited a few minutes. The ripple effect, I will say, did take quite a long time.
I used a grayscale effect in mine, and that combined with the title cards I used, each one, it was like I had to like go walk away from the computer and do something else. Like,
yeah,
it took a while, but these are resource constrained times. This is why I'm sort of hesitating to criticize on this perspective. One way you can really tell this is a huge part of the UI of iMovie is showing you how much space you have left on your hard drive and how much space you have used up in the trash can. Right.
Yeah, because iMovie seems to have its own trash can when you cut clips away or delete clips. I think I don't know if that trash represents the computer's trash or if it represents iMovie's trash.
And I have after editing my footage, I have about 800 megabytes in my trash. And tell a listener what kind of footage we were working with.
So the footage that gets imported from the camera is called a DV stream, and that's a 720 by 480. I believe it is interlaced video stream, although I think the one we had was non-interlaced. I sent Josh 2 clips. One neither of us used because it was maybe not appropriate, but
it was just to tease it. Matt and his college buddies putting a battery on their tongue while having a few adult drinks.
Yeah. I believe the one that I sent to you was a non-interlaced stream. So the file size was pretty large. It was a gigabyte raw file for like 3 minutes of video that I sent you.
Right. And I remember you talking about iMovie in earlier episodes saying that dealing with space constraints was a huge issue back in the day for you.
Yeah, right. Because we one of the stories is a similar college experience. My friend and I were playing this stupid game and we filmed it. I don't know why we filmed it, but we then slowed it way down and made this elaborate 15-minute epic video about us playing this stupid toss game in our art studios. And what ended up happening, this iMac that we were editing on in the art studios in the studio space had like a 30 gigabyte hard drive, and we just maxed it out, and it was just I think it was like a 2 or 3 minute video that we slowed down to 15 minutes. and we maxed out the hard drive space, and we couldn't get it off. So it just like the computer became unusable for a couple weeks until we could figure out how to get it off.
You basically bricked the school's computer.
Yeah, I don't think people were pleased with that.
Because your stupid hacky sack video. Amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. So yeah, I ended at the end of this. I don't know actually how much space I was using before this, but I ended up with about 20 gigabytes left of my 30 gigabyte hard drive. And I don't know that it's certainly not all of that is the movie I made, but I think I ended up with about 500 megabytes in the trash.
And for reference,
my videos.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say my video was a little bit longer than yours was.
And for reference, I have a 10 gigabyte hard drive on this machine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What do you have?
30.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I think that couple of years, they really just beefed these things up. Or the one I have was like a higher spec model. I don't really know if that was the base level.
Yeah, because these things came out in what, 02, 03?
Yeah, I think yours is 02 and mine is 03, 04.
So 500. This is not a very impressive machine for when it came out. But again, for the year 2000, it's comparable to for the time, it's almost comparable to an iMac, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
So I might be having the more quintessential experience here.
Yeah, the more authentic.
So with a grain of salt, if this is what it was like, yeah, it's a little bit of a ding against it,
right,
for normal users. Although maybe people are just used to slow things, you know.
Yeah, but I think that thinking about the context of the time, right? Like you would have never done this before, so. I will say about the interface and waiting for things to render, the UI is good about telling you that you have to wait for something. I guess to break this up a little bit, the timeline in iMovie is kind of strange.
It's really weird when you first open it.
Yeah.
There are two tabs, and let's just describe what they look like. One has a clock on it and one has an eyeball on it.
Yeah.
And these are, of course, as we know, the timeline and the eyeball line.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The eyeball line. So the eyeball tab is for when you've imported clips, you can just take the clips whole cloth from, I guess to maybe step back, the interface is divided into three primary segments. There's like the preview window. There is the function window. It's where like all of the choices happen. There's
what we would call today a segmented control at the bottom, which switches the contexts of it. So it's clips, transitions, titles, effects, and audio.
And then below all of that, running across the bottom quarter of the screen, is the timeline with your tabs with the eyeball line and the actual timeline. So if you're using the eyeball tab, the clips segmented control shows you all the clips that you've imported in sort of like little film strip kind of format.
Well, there's thumbnails. They're all thumbnails. They're little squares.
Yeah.
They're all the same size.
You can just drag these into the eyeball timeline, and you can just create a video that way. You just string them together, and boom, you're done. And
the clips. That little clip section acts as your sort of like your buffer.
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand it, for iMovie 1, you could only put like 12 clips or something in this. And then for iMovie 2, they opened that up to basically be however much space you had on your computer.
Right. Yeah. So the eyeball timeline, the timeline piece of it is a little bit confusing because like there is like essentially the visual editor where you'll be doing sort of, I guess, macro level things. You'll be dragging clips in, you'll be adding transitions. And then there's the sort of the timeline, which allows you to do a little bit more fine tuning where you can turn on and off audio tracks, you can import audio, and you can break the clips you've dragged into smaller segments.
Right. But importantly, you can't reorder clips here.
Right. Once you've got them in that order, they're kind of stuck. You can go back to the eyeball timeline and swap them around.
Right. But you can't, you can, in the timeline, you can move clips sort of forward and backwards in time. But as long as they hit another clip, they stop there.
Yep. Yeah. It's a little bit kind of strange to get used to.
To me, that was the number one like weird thing that took me some time to figure out.
Yeah, it's not. It's almost like you are sort of forced to use both pieces, both timelines to achieve your goal, as opposed to kind of living in one or the other.
And you know, you said earlier that you never would have done this before, so I wonder what is the obvious thing to do, because I am coming at this from a modern perspective where, you know, in any editing program, I just expect to be able to move clips around wherever I want them in the timeline that looks like this.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, my assumption is that the default being the eyeball timeline, they just want you to, like, you can easily import your clips and drag them in and have a video going within just a few minutes.
Right. Right.
And I think once you've done that a few times, you can sort of branch out. Now, I will say this is sort of where I got really frustrated. And I actually had to Google even though the functionality is right in the edit menu, but like I was in the clock timeline and I was trying to figure out how to like split a video, like trim video.
Oh, really?
And I was, yeah.
It is funny that there's not just a button.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I was kind of like, well, I mean, even if I'm an advanced user, like they provide lots of options in this like fine-tuned timeline, but not the trim at playhead button. And this is sort of where I got hung up initially. Once I figured it out, I was like, okay, this totally makes sense. And I understand it now, but I was a little bit frustrated that it was not made available to me. Almost every other option in this program is part of the user interface.
Right. That is strange now that you put it like that. I'm other than the rearranging clips where I wanted them, the only other thing I ran into, which was actually related, is because I'm, you know, an auteur with a unique vision,
of course,
of film, of the cinema. I did a lot of like moving stuff around, and like once I had done some stuff, I would go say like, oh, let's put the titles over here, and titles is its own tab, as I mentioned, and there's it's actually a cute little UI for doing it. I remember actually using this back in the day, and this was, as I recall, really the only thing I ever did in iMovie as a kid was make titles for movies.
Yeah. Movies you didn't make.
Yeah, well, because they were like grand visions, because again,
right.
Auteur.
Yeah.
But the thing I kept running into is I have a couple audio clips that are separate from the video, and all of the movie clips would shift up. And the audio wouldn't.
Oh.
So I kept having to like redo it. But then I sort of stopped and I was like, wait, I'm going to have a little bit of faith in Apple on this one. And I'm going to go dig around the menus and see if there's something here that could fix this for me. And I found something under advanced called lock audio clip at playhead, which appears to do what I wanted, although that's a strange way to describe what I wanted, I think.
Yeah. That is kind of strange.
But once I had that activated, and I had to do it to each audio clip, it did stay in lockstep with the clips. Mm-hmm. Maybe I did something weird, but that seemed to do what I wanted.
Isn't that what those checkbox buttons for though, on the audio and video side too?
So there are on the right-hand side of the screen, there are 3 checkboxes that don't have labels. So I had no idea what they did.
I think they lock them as part of, like, lock them together, but I could be wrong. Yeah. I thinking about, like, if you think about this as sort of like a pared down Final Cut Pro, they've included some features, but not all. And the more advanced features are a little bit like lock audio clip at playhead. It's not immediately apparent what that means. And when I got my iMovie disc, it didn't come with an instruction manual. And I'm clicking on Help Center now, and it does absolutely nothing.
Here, I'll just say, like, importing footage, here's what I needed to do to make a movie. And maybe this list is simple, but I needed to import footage. I needed to make cuts. I needed to rearrange clips. I wanted to import other audio, bring that in, lock it to the footage, fade it in and out in places, and put a few effects and title cards on there. And I was able to do all of that really easily.
Yes.
I'm pretty impressed with this piece of software from, the year 2000.
I am too. I mean, for all of the sort of like hemming and hawing about like, essentially having to relearn this software, it didn't take me long to figure out how to split the clip up,
Right.
I am also similarly impressed for like the 45 minutes to an hour I spent, and that includes like rendering things out and sort of relearning things. Like if I had to do this again, I could probably get this done in about 25 minutes. And when you see the video, you'll know how complicated it was.
We're talking like Memento.
Yeah, exactly.
Here.
Like I had to plan the end at the beginning and carry
Rush
that. Yeah. That's exactly right. One thing I would like to talk about is Apple's marriage of aqua and brushed metal in this application.
Yes. So this, I don't know if we've ever said this on the show, but this program, iMovie 2, is the first instance of aqua.
But it's in
in any Apple product.
Right. And it's in OS 9.
Yes.
Which is pretty weird.
Yes. And people commented on that at the time. That it was somewhat jarring.
It's like Apple grooming you for OS 10.
And I didn't realize that until I was reading about it afterwards, after having used it, because I am just used to Aqua, in its many forms. But
right,
it didn't look weird to me. But of course, I'm not a Mac OS 9 user.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been pretty strange at the time to kind of having used your Platinum UI for almost 2 decades, essentially, and then being confronted with this one application that looks different. And I guess QuickTime and Sherlock have the brushed metal too, but this one really leans harder into Aqua with the lickable buttons. And
this straight up just looks like an OS 10 application, and it was just super weird when you hide it and you go back to the operating system and it's all
Another sort of strange aspect of this, which is sort of un-Apple like, is that this application does not run windowed. I mean, it technically does run windowed, but it does maximize itself to full screen all the time. You can't hide it, or you can hide it, but you can't do anything else with the window. Like the size of the UI is the size of the UI, and that's it.
Right.
There's no adjusting it, which I thought was kind of strange.
Yeah, it really takes over the screen.
And if you're using OS 10, this wouldn't be a big deal because you'd have a dock. But in OS 9, it makes it a little bit like the UI, it breaks the UI conventions a lot. Like they're doing weird stuff here.
One thing I wanted to mention, which is I feel like is a point in iMovie's favor, is I didn't save the entire time I was working on my movie.
Oh, really?
I forgot to, because I'm a person from the year 2020. You don't have to save things anymore. And
whoa! You use the autosave features?
I mean, on iOS, it's not really something you opt into. It's just
sure.
Well, but here's my point: is that I am losing my my hard learned habit of saving. I realized that by working on this movie, because I got to the very end of the process. And I went to I had exported the video. I was done. And I went to go close it out. And it was like, do you want to save your project?
And then you had a mini heart attack.
I was like, oh my God, I could have just lost all of that work, because this is the year 2000 and you do not play around.
Yeah, man, you were playing with fire.
Totally. And I was just like, wow, I've gone soft. Even programs where you I use for instance the Affinity suite of tools a lot, and I was using it the other day for some client work, and who knows the last time I saved, and it crashed, and I booted it back up, and there was all my work. I had lost nothing.
Yeah, even though Affinity is it's not an autosave app by default, but it does secretly autosave everything.
Right. And a lot of programs do that even on Mac OS. So it's not that I necessarily rely on autosave. It's just, it's more and more become something I sort of take for granted, I think.
For sure.
It was kind of scary. Yeah. Realizing it would be like if I was just walking in the dark, and suddenly someone turned on the lights, and I suddenly realized I was like on a rope bridge over a canyon, and I just had no idea.
Yeah.
A little bit of history notes. iMovie 2 cost $49, even though iMovie 1 had just gone free.
Or the cost of a new Macintosh.
Or that, which honestly is pretty reasonable, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, I'm throwing in some $50, $2,000 computer seems like
yeah,
the least they could do.
Yes, and it's a tradition they have kept up with over the years. In 2013, iMovie once again became free with any purchase of a new Mac or iOS device. But apparently, I didn't know this, but as of April 2017, it's just free now.
Yeah. I think a lot of that stuff is. I know. Yeah, I think 2013 is when they essentially said all of our iLife stuff and maybe even the iWork stuff is free with a new Mac. And essentially, if you upgraded OS 10 or bought a new version of OS 10, you got all that stuff. It counted as a new Mac.
Right.
So it was not hard to get a hold of this software.
No. Although I do remember that I do distinctly remember getting to that point in time being like, oh, I got a new Mac. That means I get GarageBand and iLife for free.
Yeah, I remember that time as well because I had been previously purchasing iLife and upgrading GarageBand and iWork and all that stuff manually. But yeah, it was kind of nice to sort of get all that stuff for free. Any
closing thoughts about iMovie 2?
Good software.
Yeah, man. Boom. You did it.
Yeah. I think I had technically imported all of the footage we used on iMovie 1, and it was substantially less thought out than iMovie 2. I think they really did take a lot of like hard work and care into sort of improving the user interface and making it better. This is the iMovie that I probably have the most familiarity with. I've used newer versions, but iMovie 2 is really where I dug in hard.
Thinking back on, my story of like doing title cards and whatnot, I'm almost certain that this would have been the version of iMovie I used.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, I'm kind of tickled that I did one day actually make a movie, such as it is in iMovie.
Well, yeah. Yep.
I did the work of, getting actual footage and editing it.
Yeah.
And now my spirit is free.
Yeah. You can die in peace. Well, I think it, I know that video editing software was not particularly new at the time. Like it was new-ish, right? Final Cut had just come out. Premiere was nascent,
but very new for a consumer audience.
Right. And I think it was sort of, I know Microsoft tried to make a movie editor thing as well. And that's not something people remember. For better or worse, iMovie has sort of withstood the test of time. And I know it's gone through a lot of iterations and changes. But I do think it is a pretty remarkable piece of software, especially for the time where you could just take whatever's on your camera, put it in there, and within a few minutes, just have a video. And I think things like breaking out your clips, like I don't know, you didn't do any of the importing, but when you import a clip and there's a time code break where you've stopped the footage, I didn't in my camera for this footage. I didn't stop. I just paused. So you can pause the camera, but if you stop the footage and break the time code and start a new time code, iMovie will create a new clip for you where the new time code steps in and steps out. So if I had broken those up formally into like 10 different clips, you could have seen those 10 different clips and had them available to you, which I know is part of the hardware. Like that's part of how the hardware works, but it's nice to see just the software working so seamlessly with that hardware, even if it is like pretty simplistic by today's standards.
Well, I mean, like you said, it has stood the test of time. iMovie's on the iPad. Final Cut isn't.
Right. Yeah, and my daughter still uses iMovie today. Like she's using it right, like for school and stuff. So nice job, Doug.
Nice job, Doug. I wanted to round things out with a reading from the good book.
Ooh, the Memory Protection Bible.
Yes, that's right. It's time for Macworld Mac Secrets.
Beep, 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 beep.
Brought to you by the original Mac man, Zev Eisenberg. This is a reading from deep in the book, page. This is the book Macworld Mac Secrets. It's the 6th edition, page 835. By the way, that's out of about 1,300 pages.
Holy cow! I was thinking of buying a copy of this. It seems like it might be worth my while for $7.
I have no holding it now. I consider the immense shipping cost that Zev had to bear to send this to me, and my gratitude is renewed. This is a hefty book. Actually, he did describe it as a real chonker. So this is from the chapter 22 movies. The iMovie 2 interface secret. Almost everyone who sees iMovie 2 is amazed by its look. The screen looks like it's made of some futuristic glossy acrylic, much like the screen designs for Apple's Mac OS X.
Wow.
It looks airbrushed, slick, modern, in fact. It looks like a professional artist designed it in Adobe Photoshop. As it turns out, a professional artist did design it, iMovie 2 in Adobe Photoshop. In fact, the resulting Photoshop files are sitting on your hard drive at this very moment. Some Saturday, when you're waiting for your camcorder's battery to recharge, consider this. Instead of getting creative with your digital movies, you can get creative with your digital movie software. You can, in fact, completely redesign iMovie 2. Change its colors, label its buttons, make over its backdrop, just by editing these files in Photoshop. Open the folder under iMovie Resources Interface Files. The 7 files inside may not look like Photoshop files, and they don't launch Photoshop when you double-click them, but you'll fix that. Basically, they go on to explain that you can open these files in Photoshop, and they're just straight up like all the layers are labeled. It's all just like it's the interface of iMovie 2, and you could just change everything.
This is amazing.
After you've adjusted the look of these various screen elements to your liking, save your changes, quit Photoshop, and launch iMovie 2. You'll probably be shocked at how hard it is to come up with anything that does even half as good a job as the original. But you'll have had a worthwhile education in what it's like to design software. By the way, don't expect to get cheerful iMovie help from Apple once you've mangled it.
So maybe make copies of the files before you mangle them?
They do explain how to revert it all. But I just love that, like, and, one imagines that this is possible with a lot of software. But I love that there's, like, actual Photoshop files.
Yeah, that's cool.
That are, like, being, I guess, imported into the UI code to generate the interface.
Which maybe explains our comments earlier about it taking up the full screen and you not being able to resize or change any aspect of it.
I'll bet you anything it has something to do with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
This really makes me wonder if there's a iMovie 2 modding scene.
I mean, I think we're it, but
if you will it is no dream. All right. Well, that's going to do it for iMovie. And that's also going to do it for August. We are done, right?
We are done.
Okay. Just a reminder to stick around after the theme and to hear us give recommendations for culture of the era. But
probably video games.
Like Matt said earlier in the show, you can find us on Twitter at MemProShow, or you can send us email at memoryprotectionshow@gmail.com. Our worldwide web address is memoryprotection.show.
Ooh, you should all totally go check it out. We redesigned it last month. We've got a slick new look we think you're really going to love.
If we had the stage at a Macworld, we would spend a lot of time describing this website to you.
Yes, 100%.
All right. Well, once again, thanks to all the new listeners for sticking around for another episode. We love having you, and we'd love to hear from you. But don't expect us to take it easy on you.
What are you going to do to these new listeners when they comment?
I'm going to kick their asses.
See, I don't think that's the right approach.
Come on down to the iTunes if you want an ass kicking.
I don't even understand what that means.
Welcome, brave soul. Hail and well met. I see you too are a lover of culture. Weird, kind of bad culture.
Are you doing the intro to the outro, the recommendations section?
Yes, welcome to recommendations. This is where we, Matt and I, look back into the past. We find something that came out during the month where we're talking about Apple News and pick something that we either actually liked at the time or think is worth talking about.
Yeah, we generally I don't think we ever talked about it. We generally choose from movies, books, or video games. Books are really hard to pin down release dates for, so that's probably like the least represented.
And it's not because we don't know how to read. We definitely do.
That is correct, Josh. We know how to read.
Mm-hmm. We're both in agreement. But yes, this month it's video games again.
Always.
This month we're going to be talking about video games. They're not just for kids anymore.
We've come a long way since Pac-Man. We can't crib the besties.
Well, that one's for the deep fans.
Mm. All right. Well, Josh, what do you like this month?
I am bringing Mario Tennis for the N64.
Okay.
So Mario Tennis is for the N64 is the first Mario Tennis game, and it's I think it's sort of one of the first games of a now familiar format of all our favorite Mario characters play a sports game for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of those games that everybody loves and nobody never plays.
But they're solid games, and new versions of them come out every 4 years or less. You know, now we have golf, soccer.
Oh, there is a soccer one.
Track and field.
Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games.
Mario.
The Most Dangerous Game.
Yeah, Mario Most Dangerous Game. Classics like that.
Yeah.
This game was released on August 28th in North America. And like any of these games, you pick a Mario character you like. Mario, for instance, or Luigi. And, of course, it's a tennis game. It's all the rules of tennis, even the sort of... I think to normal people, kind of strange rules of tennis, like love and match and whatnot. But it was lauded at the time for being a really beginner-friendly way to get into tennis. The controls are very simple. It's basically just two buttons to do serving and hitting the ball back. There's movement controls, but serving and hitting is really most of where the work is. But they were still pretty deep. You could make 7 different shot types with just these 2 buttons. So there's a lot of range from beginners to more advanced players to have fun with the game, which is a common attribute of Nintendo games.
Yeah, if you twist the Wii remote while you bowl, you got to strike every time.
It was, while it is a Nintendo title, it was developed by Camelot Software Planning.
Yeah, Camelot.
Camelot. They were originally a company started by Sega.
Is that true?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
They were a division of Sega, originally called Sega CD4. And then they changed to be called Sonic Software Planning.
Mm-hmm.
And they worked on games internally for a while. But then they eventually split off in 1995, and they renamed themselves Camelot. And after that, they basically set their sights on Nintendo and never looked away. They built Mario Tennis and then golf subsequently, and they also worked on the Golden Sun RPG games.
Yeah, that's where I know Camelot from.
Other than that, though, they basically just make Mario Tennis and golf. Like, yeah, there's like the entire list is basically just that.
Yeah.
Their most recent game was 2018's Mario Tennis Aces for the Switch.
Have you played that one?
Nah. No, I have not played that one. Have you?
No, I don't play Mario Tennis games. I don't play any tennis games, to be fair.
I actually really like games like this. I don't have a lot of opportunity to play them for whatever reason. Because I'm a weird loner.
I mean, they do benefit from being multiplayer, like local multiplayer games.
But I could kick your ass at Wii Tennis. I'm just going to say it right now.
Well, Josh, when the quarantine's over, we're going to have a Wii Tennis showdown.
I'm going to go get my Wii back for my sister. But
I've got one.
All right. Well, bring your nunchuck. Scrub. The game was well received. It has a Metacritic score of 91%. And it sold 200,000 copies in the first 2 weeks of its release.
Wow.
But all of this pales in comparison to its main contribution to society.
Is this the angry Luigi meme?
Well,
Or is that oh no.
Camelot is in fact cited as being responsible for the invention of Waluigi.
That's what I was going to say. The wah.
I'm going to win. Yes, this the most popular, greatest Mario character of all time was invented by Camelot for this game because Nintendo just sort of asked them to do it. They asked them to have a Wario-like character opposite Luigi.
So what? I mean, what other choice did they have?
Yeah, they really put a lot of thought into it. You can tell.
Yeah, and Waluigi still not in Super Smash Brothers in 2020, right?
Yep, burn the world down.
Yeah.
And that is all I have for Mario Tennis. What are you bringing, Matt?
Josh, did you like those Tony Hawk games?
Yes, and.
Yes, and. Well, how would you like a Tony Hawk game where you're Spider-Man and instead of skateboarding, you swing on webs?
You're a web slinger.
You're a web slinger.
That sounds awesome.
My game is Spider-Man for the PlayStation.
PlayStation Uno.
PlayStation Original. And I'm looking, when I was looking through the games list, it said that this was released in August of 2000. I'm now looking on the Wikipedia page and it says September 1st of 2000. So I may be a day off, but I'm going to take it.
We'll allow it.
Because the list was garbage this month.
Pretty bad.
No Dreamcast games.
What's even the point?
So Spider-Man, just titled Spider-Man.
As most Spider-Man games are.
Right. I think technically all of the best Spider-Man games only have the name of Spider-Man.
Interesting. I think that's true.
Developed by Neversoft, the company that brought you such hits as Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Wow, a storied career.
Yeah, I do have their Wikipedia up. They did Tony Hawk. They did MDK. Do you remember MDK?
No, I didn't play any of these games.
No,
I didn't have a PlayStation.
They were most famous for Tony Hawk Pro Skater and Guitar Hero. So they created the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series in 1999, and that they kept going with that all the way up until 2006 with Tony Hawk's Project 8, which I think was a pretty bad game. And it looks like they may not have been the originators of the Guitar Hero, but they started with Guitar Hero 3 and continued development through 2009 on Guitar Hero games. Anyway, that's Neversoft. You know them, you love them.
They've made some of the most popular games of all time.
Yeah, and I think,
or at least entries in the most popular franchises of all time.
Yeah. So, have you ever? Question for you is: have you ever seen the old Spider-Man cartoons where Stan Lee narrates?
Define old.
Probably the 80s. They might have been the 70s, not 90s.
Not the 90s. Okay, because I'm squarely a Spider-Man 90s Spider Blood, whoever they were playing the theme song.
Okay. So
I watched a few of it's me, the Green Goblin. I will defeat you, Spider-Man.
Yes. So this game is very much in that same vein.
Really?
Yeah, for the most part. I think they kind of leaned into maybe the limited power of the platforms at the time. They got, I think what they lacked in like graphical ability, they kind of made up for in like charm and like comic book authenticity. So I think some of this game is played out in comic book panel style things like cutscenes. Some of it is in-game cutscenes, but each mission you're introduced to the mission by Stan Lee. And, it's like, welcome back, true believers. And he's doing his,
awesome.
His Stan Lee thing, and he introduces each mission to you verbally. So I think what made this game kind of fun for the time is that, on a PlayStation 1, swinging on your web was made fun by the people that made Tony Hawk and skateboarding fun in 3D. It's not a perfect game. It's a 3D action beat 'em up from the year 2000. So, it kind of has some of the problems at the time, like the camera's not great. The graphics are pretty terrible. I would say even for a PlayStation 1 game, the graphics are not very good. But it is simplistic. It does sort of lean into the charm. And it has like a classic Spider-Man story where like Dr. Octopus has got some nefarious plan. You got to stop him. And you run into all the villains.
That is also the plot of all the good Spider-Man games.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Now, you said you had played this recently.
Yes, I played this for the Dreamcast recently and kind of got back into it. I didn't get too far into it, but it's still pretty fun. It's not, again, like it's not perfect. I don't know how much I'm going to go back to it, but yeah.
He didn't.
He didn't. So this garnered an 87 out of 100 on Metacritic. And in 2001, this game was followed up with a sequel, Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, which I have never played.
I'm pretty sure every time Electro enters the scene, that's the end of a
franchise.
End of a franchise, yeah. All right.
So that's my game.
Nice. I don't know how we exit from this.
I think we just need a little quick stinger and we're out.
All right. We'll just go to the menu, go to the recommendations menu, and go down to quit recommendations. Oh, and there's a beach ball. Sorry, folks. We'll finish the segment real soon as this starts loading. I
Josh
just got an alert.
Dropped off the Skype call.
I don't know, Matt can't hear me anymore, but it seems that recommendations has quit unexpectedly.